Hello, everybody, and welcome to another very special edition of Rowing Chat. I'm interviewing a lot of people who run businesses in the sport of rowing, and today I'm delighted to introduce Annabel Eyres.
Hi, Rebecca. Lovely to be here.
So, Annabel, you and I have known each other for a while, but a lot of people know you as an Olympian. But how did you get started with your rowing business?
Well, it was in the days, pre-lottery days, so there was no sponsorship at all. So you had this sort of horrendous choice. If you wanted to row for the squad, you would have to train crack of dawn, go to work, come back, train in the evening. And I did that for a few months. It was complete hell. I remember sort of cycling down to Tideway Scullers crack of dawn, then cycling to a job in Wandsworth, and then coming back to a very dubious gym near the Amateur Rowing Association at Hammersmith and doing our land training there. And I did that for some time and then sort of thought, actually, wouldn't it be better to be self-employed? And there happened to be a girl on the team called Fiona Johnston, who was a graphic designer. And I just finished at the Ruskin School of Drawing and Fine Art at Oxford. And we sort of hatched a plan to start putting our art to good use and actually earning us a bit of money to be able to train at reasonable hours. That was sort of the idea. And the first design we did was 1989, and it was this one. Well, I designed this one. I think Flo did the next one that was for Henley, and I put that on a t-shirt. And we printed 150 T-shirts and took them to the second Women's Henley Regatta. So the Women's Henley Regatta started 1988, and this was a 1989 design. And I remember we had them all in sort of postal sacks, I think, and we took them out of our car, and we literally didn't move beyond this, just a few yards from our car, and we were besieged by people wanting to buy a T-shirt with this design on, and they just went just like that. They sold out in a matter of minutes.
Wow.
And then we got a bit sort of trigger happy and thought, right, well, let's print tons for Henley. And I think we decided to print 500, which was actually slightly ludicrous because we didn't actually have a stand to sell them from. We were just going to be selling them ourselves by wandering around car parks, and we managed to, in fact, I think we might have printed 1,000. I mean, it was huge numbers, and between the three of us and then various friends, we just traipsed around car parks and flogged these T-shirts to people. And got in real trouble with the car park attendants at Henley. Didn't like us doing it at all, but we exhausted ourselves. We were trying to train at the same time, and we were absolutely knackered. Yeah, there was myself, Fiona Johnston, Ali Gill, and friends and family. But we sold all of those. So we never actually had to sort of invest in the business. We literally made some T-shirts, sold them, paid that bill, made some more T-shirts, and it just rolled on like that. So there was never any sort of huge investment startup loan needed or anything. So it was very sort of organic business in that respect. And no one else was doing T-shirts then.
And it was called Rock the Boat, wasn't it? The original business.
Yeah, it was called Rock the Boat, exactly. Yeah, and the logo I have, we can't see it very well, but on my T-shirts was another design. You can't know.
There we go, Rock the Boat. Yeah, with the little wave.
Logo.
Yeah. And those are the bridges of the River Thames, is that right?
Yeah, head of the river race bridges. So that was a design I did. That was probably a year on from. Could even have been a few months on from that design. And I remember showing it to my business partner, Ali Gill, and sort of she said, "Oh, I don't like that." And that's a bit boring. I'll just show you again. And that has been one of the number one sellers for since 1990. It just goes on and on and on. It's a sort of classic.
I hope Ali's listening. Ali, you weren't right. So.
But it was funny, and I obviously this was pre-computer days, so I hand drew it and in ink laboriously with a big drawing board and rulers and things. I mean, now I have done a computer version, it's very easy to do, but I sort of had to reduce the bridges down to something very simple that would be printed easily through screen printings directly onto a t-shirt. So that sort of informed my style of art, which is sort of very, very graphic. Simply because
bring them over. Let's have a look. Come up close and let's have a look at some of your bestsellers. Bring that one.
Right. Well, this actually is a new line. This is yoga. This is obviously not rowing. So I have taken up rowing again in the last few years, and I've also discovered rowing yoga in about the last 12 years. And I sort of rather wish that I'd done yoga when I was doing my Olympic rowing, because it's so good for your back, just amazing for your back and hamstrings, and prevents injury. So I would just so encourage anyone who's rowing now to do yoga. So I thought I'd sort of apply the same philosophy as I did to rowing to yoga designs. And these are just all the different poses, just very simply represented, which is what I like to do. And all my rowing designs are really about the figure, the body, going through the motions and the rhythm of the different poses. So this is another recent one I will get. This is it's actually a paper cut. So it's beautiful. Different boats, obviously quad 8 pair, and that's cut out of a sort of really nice quality watercolor paper. And then behind it, so that's
I see. Suddenly, yes.
So it's a sort of silhouette, so you can see through the back, and then I can put any sort of background behind it at all. So this was for my son who rows for Yale, and it was for his 21st. And they usually, touch wood, they usually win. So I put gold behind. Well, sadly, he's not in the first crew, but I mean, they seem to win most things. So I put gold on there, and then the blue of Yale, and then this Y, because I love the fact the Americans always just have a Y or a P. You know, it's very sort of American to have just that one letter to indicate who you row for. So yeah, the whole paper cut thing is sort of quite a new departure and quite exciting. So some of the designs I've sort of done in the past just work really well when they're actually cut out of paper. Also, laser cutters are amazing things. So this is one of my most successful designs, which I have to say, I mean, this is my version of it, but I did a regatta in Cincinnati in 1987, I think. And there was a T-shirt with this single sculler sort of disappearing off into the horizon, and I loved the design so much that I did my own version. And that's an 8, obviously. And now this is a light, a sort of lamp. So this is the design etched into, well, this is perspex, but it can be etched into glass. And then there's an LED strip light in this wooden block, which is very bright. So once you put the perspex in, it illuminates the.
Isn't that stunning?
So yeah, so those have worked quite well. Rather nice if you in a darkened room and you've just got that in there. And this I thought, so going back to sort of the beginnings, this was another of my initial designs, which you'll recognise, Rebecca.
Yeah, Tideway Scullers Quad with the man looking out of the boat.
Yeah, exactly. And I hope that when you walk up the stairwell at Tideway Scullers, that's actually on the wall, a massive mural of it.
Yes, and there was a framed print of it, and I've definitely got a T-shirt with that on the back as well. That's
right. Yes, yeah, exactly. And I'm glad to say, done a woman's version now. So I don't know why it's very, I when I first started drawing rowers, they would often be male, muscly male men, but that was my first one, so that was definitely women. But they're all the muscles make very good drawing. And this was another one that's sort of gone on and on and on. which I
Ah,
have to say, there's somebody called Gilbert Bourne who wrote this amazing book called the what was it called? Manual of Rowing or something, Manual of Oarsmanship, I think.
yes.
And there's actually a stone to him, as I discovered at the start of the bumps races in Oxford, just on the Isis. There's a memorial stone to him. So he wrote this very interesting book, and he had these amazing diagrams in there of muscles, sort of paired people just with their muscles and skeletons rowing. And anyway, that inspired me to sort of do this version, which I called Anatomy of Rowing. And these are all the Latin names. And that has sold and gone on and on and on. So that's a sort of slightly more typical of my original drawing skills at university, where I did fine art as opposed to graphic art.
Ah.
Yeah. So these are more sort of designs that I'm doing now. I mean, still very graphic, but again, very of rowing. I call that the language of rowing.
Oh, that's so nice. And I can see the simplicity of the figure style so mirrors what you showed us on your yoga cushion.
Yeah, exactly that. Yeah. It's sort of, it wasn't sort of intended to look like an alphabet or a sort of writing, but I just loved the fact that it did once sort of repeated like that. It looks like some kind of, well, the yoga one certainly looks like hieroglyphics. And this one just has a sort of rhythm to it. So yeah, I think that's probably one of my sort of big interests actually in art, because, and particularly with the depicting the rowing, because it is such a beautifully rhythmical motion and obviously repetitive, and that's what I'm trying to depict. You'd think I would have got bored of it after however many years. 32 years. No, I haven't. I'm still going. Yeah, so that's another one I've done, which is called Sculling Fish. So that quad, I don't know if you can see.
Yeah, I can see it beautifully, and
inside,
similar ideas. Oh,
so it's like a skeleton, but it's a quad inside the fish.
A quad inside the fish. Yeah, you're going to have to watch closely, people, you can understand what Annabel's describing. So one of the things about rowing art is that I feel that there are actually sort of two genres. There's the realistic, does this actually look like and then there's the slightly more abstract representation, which kind of starts with Raoul Dufy and his beautiful prints that he did at Henley. And you've really managed to sort of encapsulate that and modernize it and take it in with those really subtle colors, the greens and the blues, which I think are something that's a very, very modern palette, Annabel.
Yeah, I suppose that they're my sort of favorite colors. Mind you, you're right, they're quite fashionable colors, I'd say. There are quite a few sort of printmakers emerging who are very influenced by 1930s printmakers, and those sort of blues and greens seem to repeat. So I think that is where the influence is from, definitely. But they are lovely colours. They're water.
Yeah, exactly. And now on your website, you have a lot of designs that you then can put into lots of different media. Do you want to talk a little bit about what people can buy from your website?
Yeah, so the website, well, I actually sell quite a lot of pieces on the Rock the Boat website, and some of them you can just buy a print and that will just be sent straight out, or some of them can actually be customized and adapted. So for example, the Tideway Scullers one I showed you earlier could be, I've done quite a few, not just quads, but eights and singles. I can put the club colours in the design. And obviously the other Yale paper cut that I also showed you, that can be adapted very easily as well. So with a letter or just simply the colours underneath the cutout, which is quite subtle. So it's not sort of screaming at you that it's your club, but it is definitely your club. So there's a whole range. Actually, I haven't got a copy of one that's called Romance, which is a Liechtenstein ripoff, which is on the website. And it's a rip-off of his sort of one of his well-known clinches, man and a woman, and they're holding, one of them's holding an oar, and I can adapt the oar to club colours, which is the beauty of doing a lot of work on the computer. So I can definitely do all that, and I've got a whole range of these paper cuts, quite a few others that can also be adapted, sort of much simpler ones, with these. With the language of rowing, these figures, those figures I do as a paper cut as well, and then behind each figure I can put colours. So I did one for someone you probably know who rowed at Cambridge, and his girlfriend wanted duck egg blue behind the little rowers in a line. So yeah, everything can be adapted, just makes it a little bit more special.
Now, tell the listeners where they can find your work online.
Yeah, so my website that sort of shows a good variety of my work is annabeleyres.com. Unfortunately, you can't buy directly off that site as yet, but the Rock the Boat website you can buy direct. But my website, if you just send, if there's something you fancy or want to discuss a commission, then there's a little sort of inquiry area, so just send an email and I'll get straight back to anyone.
That's fantastic. Annabel, thank you. And thank you for showing us what such a diverse range of images and how clearly your brain has developed and enhanced this beautiful simplification and adaptation of rowing insignia into the sort of medium of print, but then overlaid with colours and fish and boat styles. I'm just fascinated by it.
Oh, thank you. Thank you. Yeah, it's been a bit of a sort of long passion and a long obsession. So it's quite good to start doing some yoga, actually. And I'm going to start doing some swimming prints as well. So the same sort of repetitive swimming motion, put those into some prints as well. So I can be a little bit more diverse than just the rowing artist.
Annabel, thank you for coming on Rowing Chat. And you can find all of Annabel's work under gifts in the rowing directory. So if you go to rowing.chat and go to the top menu, there's a word directory, and then you can search and you will find all her details there as well. Till next time, bye-bye.